Today we'll discuss about diastolic murmurs. Before proceeding with the diastolic murmurs, we'll just see what are the events happening during the diastolic. After the completion of the systole, the entire blood is donated to the great arteries and it is getting dissipated outwards into systemic and pulmonary circulation. Then the ventricles start relaxing. During the initial part of the relaxation, the pressure in the ventricles are above the great arteries initially. When the pressure drops down, a point at which the ventricular pressure is below the great arterial level, the blood comes back and then the semilunar valve closes. So that marks the beginning of the systole as far as we are concerned. Actually, the diastole must have started earlier. So, the second sound, if the semilunar valves are intact, it causes second sound. The number of the second sound, unlike the first heart sound, there may be timing difference in the second heart sound because high pressure arterial aortic semilunar valves closer earlier, lower pressure pulmonary semilunar valve closes a little later, and that again the variation in the timing occurs depending upon various factors, the output from the two ventricles in two phases of respiration and all. So after the closure, it's intact, ventricle dilates, relaxes, no more of flow happens from the great arteries down into the ventricles, the blood gets dissipated. Suppose there is a leak, you will get a sound of a leak the moment the second heart sound happens. So there is a classical murmur occurring from the aortic and the pulmonary semilunar valves in different situations. We'll come to that. Then you go into the timing. Ventricle relaxes further. At this stage, what is the situation of the mitral and the tricuspid valve? They are closed. Mitral and tricuspid valve are closed. This is the two atria. This is the mitral valve. This is the tricuspid valve, and this is relaxing atrial pressure. This relaxing at a point will come when the ventricular pressure is below the atrial pressure. So till then, after the closure of the semilunar valves, it needs to reduce the pressure again lower and lower. Then only the ventricular pressure comes below the atrial pressure. So even when the relaxation proceeds, the ventricular pressure is higher than the atrial pressure. It should lower down up. That will take a gap from the second heart sound. So then the mitral valve open, tricuspid valve open, and there is a gush of fluid, blood from the atrium to the ventricles. So what are the chances of sounds occurring during this period? I said if the semilunar valves are intact, no more of leaks or sounds, relaxes, mitral and tricuspid valve opens, again no sound of opening of the valves. Then the gush of blood from the atrium to the ventricle, blood goes and hits the ventricular myocardium, again no sound usually. Then the atrium contracts, giving the last gush of blood to the ventricles, again no sound. But there are chances of sounds occurring at each of these points. So that's what we are going to discuss. What are the sounds which are likely to happen? What are the turbulent murmurs which are likely to happen during this period? So we'll finish off the sounds. You heard the diastole start from the second heart sound, then ends with the next systole, first heart sound. So actually it is a little earlier. Okay. So what are the events happening? Mitral valve opening, tricuspid valve opening. Is there a provision of sounds happening during? Yes. Occasionally mitral valve opening can be associated with a clicking sound. So classical thing which you all are familiar with, the opening snap in case of mitral stenosis. So when is it occurring? Timing. This is the second sound. This is the first heart sound. We are talking about this part. Second heart sound. Seminar valves are closed. Two seminar valves closed. Second heart sound occurred. After that relaxation, and this is the point at which the mitral valve opens. If there is a sound happening in the case of a severe situation of mitral stenosis, opening snap you hear. Then, suppose it's not the, okay, is there any provision of sound? The gush of blood after the opening goes and hits the ventricle. There is a chance of a third heart sound. That can occur in the left side, that can occur on the right side. Imagine a situation of third heart sound on the left, more blood is coming and hitting the myocardium is one. Imagine in sometimes athletes and youngsters, more blood comes and hits just a physiological normal third heart sound. Lot of other situations from the left side, more blood. In case of mitral regurgitation, more blood is there at the end of the diastole in the atrium. Imagine a PDA situation, imagine a case of a VSD situation, left atrium contains more blood, the more blood comes to the ventricle and hits, there can be a third heart sound. Another manner in which third heart sound occurs is the ventricular myocardium is not normal. The myocarditis you get, sometimes in case of other myocardial dysfunction you get third heart sound. So that is the timing of the third heart sound after the opening heart sound. Then what is the end of the diastole? The end of the diastole, the load of the atrium is donated to the ventricles. That is the atrial contraction. So sometimes this additional load going and hitting the ventricular myocardium can lead to fourth heart sound. These are rare situations. Some of the aortic stenosis or some of the cardiomyopathy situations are all rare situations nowadays, not that common. Anyway, so these are the diastolic sounds possible, and you need to remember about the relation of the second heart sound, opening snap, third heart sound. Okay, so what are the chances of the murmurs happening during the diastole? This is the split second heart sound. Suppose there is a leak happening at the time of closure, you will get a leak from the aorta or a leak from the pulmonary. The commonest reason for this leak happening are the valve getting damaged. All of us know the aortic regurgitation in case of rheumatic valve. There can be other reasons also. Aortic valve annular dilatation can be there. Lot of other reasons of injury of the valves are there. Endocarditis is there. Innumerable reasons for the damage and the valve not closing properly, leading to a leak. Pulmonary again, commonest and most important is the pulmonary hypertension leading to something you call as Graham-Steele's murmur. Other situations where the valves are damaged during your procedures, invasive procedures sometimes, following your surgery for the repair surgery for fallow, lot of cardiac surgeries, there can be a damage of the valves. So whatever thing, the seminal valves get damaged and the leak. Leak can occur on the right or left side. Left side aortic valvular lesion, the pitch of the murmur in two situations are high pitch. So you should know the pitch and high pitch and low pitch. High pitch is hissing, musical hissing sound, high frequency. Low pitch is harsher. The vibrations are spaced. So these are the high pressure systems, out of which highest pressure is from the aortic. So aortic regurgitation will have a very high pitch. You may not get it. You need to auscultate with special precautions. Unless you do this, you may miss it, because that's not a harsh murmur. Musical murmurs, high frequency. The very same way, pulmonary regurgitation leading on to pulmonary hissing sound is not that musical, a little harsher. So because the pressure in that is around 15, 16. The other is above 18 millimeters. There is a very high pressure situation. Sometimes pulmonary hypertension leading on to can get a high peak situation. So just think, the murmur starts from the moment of the closure down. This is the shape. Hissing sound starting from the second heart sound. So that is about the regurgitation murmur from the seminal valves. You call it as early diastolic murmur. Early diastolic murmur. The differentiation is the site where you hear. Second thing is the change which happens during inspiration and expiration. Discussed we have yesterday. The right side events are more in a inspiration. Left side event more in case of expiration. That's how you differentiate. That one method of differentiation. About the second event, possibility of the second heart sound, mitral valve. I just told mitral valve. Tricuspid valve also simultaneously. Mitral valve opens. The flow happens silently because the lumen through which the blood is donated from the atrium to the ventricles is adequate. There is no need for any turbulence. But if there is a turbulence created either due to the luminal narrowing, or narrowing is not there, the lumen is adequate but more blood has to pass from the atrium to the ventricle, you can get a turbulence. So that's what you call as MDM, mid diastolic murmur. So we have been discussing about early diastolic murmur starting from the second heart sound. Here it starts after a gap, the mitral valve or tricuspid valve opens. So the mid diastolic murmur is a low pitch rumbling type of mid diastolic murmur. So what are the situations where you get all these entities? So in short terms, you are getting a diastolic murmur originating from the seminal valves on this side or that side. The very same way you can get a diastolic murmur originating from the AV valves, right side or left side. You may confuse it for the how sounds which happens during the diastole, third heart sound, fourth heart sound and other pericardial knock and lot of other diastolic sounds are also there, which we'll discuss as a part of extra sounds, last part. Not murmurs, added sounds. So anyway, what are the major early diastolic murmurs? We'll discuss about the mid diastolic murmurs, reasons and how to auscultate. Early diastolic murmur, mainly aortic and pulmonary. We have discussed it. Only thing, how to auscultate, how to look for it. So if you consider that possibility, there can be a clue from the general examination about high volume collapsing nature. All the peripheral signs are there. You may be having one of the reasons is aortic regurgitation. There are other reasons also. So you should be looking for the evidence of aortic regurgitation. The other situation, if you feel the possibility of pulmonary hypertension is there, you have to check for the pulmonary regurgitation. Other reasons for the situations also you need to consider. One more very important thing for a younger child I forgot to mention was the persistent truncus lesion. It's not aorta, it's not a pulmonary, it's just one major vessel with one valve which is almost always incompetent. Persistent truncus, it will never close properly. Always be associated early diastolic murmur. That's one possibility to be considered in a very young child with cyanotic heart disease, high output cyanotic heart disease. Okay, about the how to differentiate, you should be looking for with the diaphragm of the stethoscope, because diaphragm picks up the high pitch sound. You should be looking for the silent room, no additional sound. You should be looking for undress, sitting, stooping forward and maybe holding the breath. So that much careful method is needed. You may miss it, that hissing sound which may be the only clue. And even with a very significant aortic regurgitation, you may miss it all totally, because that much subtle is that finding. Again, in a context of we are suspecting pulmonary regurgitation. Okay, so where will you look for? That's the interesting thing. You heard of aortic aortic area on the side, right side. But you are looking for the regurgitant murmur, both pulmonary and the aortic adhesion in the second space, in the second aortic area. A little lower, little below the second space. So both the aortic and pulmonary is auscultated there, but the main difference is in the pitch. Main difference is in the timing with the respiration, and of course the peripheral signs. That's how you differentiate the early diastolic murmur of the pulmonary and aortic. Of course, commoner one is the aortic. So now you come to the mid-diastolic murmur happening after the tricuspid and mitral opening. Classical one is the mitral valve stenosis. So how will you auscultate for that? It's a low pitched murmur, rumbling. So it's very easy. In fact, it's more palpable than audible. So you'll get thrill. So how will you auscultate for that? You choose the bell of the stethoscope. You turn to the left side. Auscultate at the apex with the bell. Very careful when you're keeping the bell here. The bell should not be pressed. It should be just tightly encircling. If you press too much, it will behave like a diaphragm. So lateral turning at the apex, bell just enough to close the. They should always have the diaphragm. I mean the rim. Metal with the rim only. Then only you can close that. Then you hear the sound. You auscultate. You will get the sounds. One very very important thing is, many people mistake a diastolic murmur for the systolic murmur. That's a classical thing. When you give a mitral stenosis, you will say it's a mitral regurgitation. The very important thing is that you are not timing. You are familiar with the systolic murmurs only. So always you should have an idea how to time it. So how to time a murmur? You start auscultating in the pulmonary area where you can very easily make out the systolic and diastolic. There is no confusion of first heart sound, second heart sound, timing of the systole. Following that, you gradually bring the stethoscope down to your desired site. So that's called inching. You start from here and keep on listening to the observed systole. Then once you reach the apex, then you know the sound which you thought it is systolic is not happening in the systole, it's in the diastolic. Otherwise, you would have considered this as a systolic murmur. So it's a diastolic murmur. A rough rumbling diastolic murmur following an opening snap. All of us know about the A2 OS interval, the importance of that. The higher the left atrial pressure, opening of the mitral valve happens early. So it's very close to the aortic closure. So that gives an idea about the pressure in the atrium, the severity of mitral stenosis. So all those things we'll discuss when we discuss about the mitral stenosis purpose. So A2 OS interval is important. Length of mitral diastolic murmur is important. Okay. So what are the other situations where you get the MDM? I told you the relative stenosis. The actual stenosis due to congenital mitral stenosis or acquired mitral stenosis, out of which congenital mitral stenosis is a rarity. The relative mitral stenosis happens in many other situations where the left atrial blood at the end of the diastole before the atrium contracts is more. So what are the situations? You imagine that here, you are Emma, when more blood enters the left atrium by a leak, there is more than normal blood. So that blood has to traverse the normal sized mitral valve. You get the mid-diastolic. The left side again, the PDA and the VSD situation, you will get more blood in the left atrium. You are likely to get the mid-diastolic murmur in a case of VSD and the PDA. So MR, VSD, PDA are all situations where you get the mid-diastolic murmurs. So that argues for the severity of the condition. So if there is an MDM, means the PDA or VSD are significant. The very same manner on the right side, tricuspid stenosis is a rare entity, organic stenosis. But the relative stenosis is a common thing. So what are the situations where the RA gets more blood? TR. The other situations is ASD. Classical ASD, more blood comes and dilates the right atrium. ASD. PAPVC and TAPVC, total and partial anomalous venous return, where the pulmonary vessels goes and enters the right atrium. More blood is there in the right atrium. Then this blood has to traverse the tricuspid band. So in a tricuspid regurgitation, in a case of ASD, in a PAPVC, in a case of TAPVC, all situations you get the right atrium large volume, so it will lead to MTM. So that's important to grade the severity of ASD. So the presence of third heart sound, presence of mid-diastolic murmur argues for a left-right shunt at the atrial level if you are getting the mid-diastolic murmur at the lower left channel border. So ASD is one lesion which is very likely to be missed because the murmur of the systolic may not be that significant. The only clue is the split, fixed split second sound. So you need to grade also the third heart sound and the MDM at the lower left channel border are the useful clues for this thing. The very same manner, the grading of the VSD and PDA presence of MDM in the apex helps to argue that it is for the severe situations. So what did we discuss today? The diastolic events happening, the normal and the abnormal sounds and the murmurs, early and mid diastolic murmurs. So, thank you.